Good morning. Here are your announcements for Friday, January 12th. I'm Charlie Mitchell. Since we're off on Martin Luther King Day on Monday, we're going to devote today's announcements to Dr. King's legacy and what can we learn about the importance of the national holiday that was created in recognition of his work, his life, and accomplishments. First, we'll hear and part of his famous speech delivered on these steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. in 1963.
This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, tears of thee."
Now we'll hear from a few Don teachers speaking on the importance of this day.
Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Day is basically an opportunity for the world to celebrate this concept of freedom. Reverend Dr. King exemplified and personified the quest for freedom, specifically and particularly among African Americans, who, if we look at his speech, the "I Have a Dream" speech at Washington at the Lincoln Memorial, he says, 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation.
This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice.
But the point he was making was that even though the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed, promises had been made to African Americans and other people of color, those promises had not been kept. And he suggested that we had come to that place, this hallowed place, to cash a check that had been marked insufficient funds.
But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination.
Today we have to exercise the reality that freedom still isn't free. The struggle continues. Just because there was a march, just because there have been some gains in opportunities and fairness, there's so much more yet to be done.
Dr. King demonstrated for them. He actually, reflected the epitome of how to cope and how to have, more power through means of positivity and good works, as opposed to responding to violence with violence. I think that his message to our youth, is what he did for them is to demonstrate, with his actions and ultimately with his life. He paid the ultimate price, that you can really transcend the negative forces that are in your society.
Martin Luther King Day stands for so many positive things, and mostly he stood for all people and for all rights. Students need to understand everything has a history, and because of what he's done, others are able to do that today for them, such as if it's create music, education, jobs, and so on. So everything is coming from something, and because that took place then, they're able to be where they're at today now.
Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens,
he gave us visions. He gave us hope and dreams. And when you have hope and dreams, it motivates you. It gives you something to hold on to.
When we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
students need to take a time, and I think they need to reflect on what the day should mean to them. It's important because I think sometimes students of today think of it as a day off, and I think it should be looked at as a day on.
Have a good day off on Monday and try spending part of your day learning or understanding or just thinking about the importance of Dr. King's legacy.